welcome to the stage the CEO and founder of the Bildbeschaffer, Alexander Karst.
Hello, everybody out there as well as in here. Should we start the show? Yeah? Okay, so we can lean back a little bit, and I would like to tell you something about our daily business, which is fairly strange. It doesn't have, or maybe there are a lot of folks here in this group who don't care about licenses and don't have to care about licenses because you buy the you generate the product photos technically. You have your photographer and you have your contracts. You have your products, visual content. Everything around your products might be without any additional license needed because it's produced in-house or maybe with photographers you have contracts on. But once you go outside and you have the which was called the editorial stuff, or maybe the world outside your products, surrounding your products, giving a glimpse of where your products are needed. Or maybe your product is something like an insurance, and you don't show the contract to be the product of that, to be a visual of that product, but you maybe have a life insurance and you have the dad with his son, and he glimpses at his son and says, "Hey, I care for your future." And these images are, maybe you do a shooting with a professional photographer, maybe you go to a stock agency, or maybe you go to any source out there where you can find that. And that's where we come in. And we try to handle, every aspect of that. The technical aspect, the creative aspect, and the legal aspect. So I don't talk only about copyrights, maybe I will talk about upload filters in the next 20 minutes or 30. So, but let me start with our Bildbeschaffer. We are just 7 people. I was head of PR and web manager for Getty Images in the year 2000. And I stepped out because I said, I want to work for the customer, not for the product. I want to work for the customer as being something like a picture editor, researcher, and license fulfillment. These are our 3 topics: research, licensing, and fulfillment. So that's what we do the whole day. We have about, let's say, 10,000 researched images per month. We work for 100 customers in the last 12 months. And we focus on having the right picture for having licensed. And once we license that, we put it into the DAM, into the content hub. Sorry, Michael. Into the content hub. And we put the assets into the content hub. And as they are assets, we know about the value of these assets, metadata and all that stuff, and the license. So as I said, I started in 2000. And when we worked for customers, we still worked with slides and prints. And that's maybe the time of that guy. Do you remember this guy? Yeah, some of you do. And I show him because his grandson has one specialized agency for nature photography, for wildlife, medical products, etc. But nobody knows because Stone Age. Yeah. So nowadays, for me, this is a great picture showing we are living in the digital age now. Smoking in airplanes is prohibited anyhow, so you don't have to care about that. And now you have to deploy your electronic devices once you're landing or whatever. So this is, for me, the show-up of the digital age. Now we are talking about how to deliver images to our customers. We research in a specific way, in a technical way, so the customers can work with that. Which means you have, for example, the workflow area within the CELUM system, and normally you add only licensed images you really can use, everybody can use or whatever. But what happens with the images you already found out there, which are great pictures, but you haven't licensed? So that's, for example, one question we have. So what we did is, while we do the researching, We go to Shutterstock, we go to Getty Images, Adobe Stock, whatever. We go to 400 different sources, and if you want to research within Instagram or wherever your content might be, and what we try to find is the relevant information in order to license it afterwards. Because what the creatives, and you're not creative in that point in this field, you're not the one sitting at the desk finding images out there. What they do is they copy and paste images, and afterwards they find this image beautiful, but they don't know where to license. So what we do is, while researching, we grab all the information. Who is the photographer? Where can we license? At which license model? And for example, is it model released or not? We store all these information and can handle it over into a content hub or wherever, and we handle it at this time into our system. We established something like a Snaplet, which is a small tool just collecting all these information and storing them into the database so we can retrieve this information. Because this is one thing I learned from my favorite movie, which is Brazil. Information retrieval is really expensive. If you have the information in the first place, take it. Afterwards, it's too expensive to retrieve. Now, the creatives we're working with, they normally go out, and I ask them, which are your sources you're going to? And 10 years ago, they said, Getty Images, CIFA, Getty Images, I don't know any other. After 10 years, you know, Adobe Stock, which was called Fotolia those days, they established, and iStock and Shutterstock. But now they say, oh, Unsplash, Pexels, Pixabay, I don't know if you're familiar. Who knows one of these three? And you might use them. So we should have a deeper look into that, because what we find there is sometimes great images, right? You find them. And I have found this one from a photographer who also did this picture for free. And to be honest, if you want to use them and you ask, hey, can I use it? Do I have to pay for it? No, you don't have to pay for the photographer's license. But do you see the cosmetic product? Do you see the Coca-Cola? Something an Unsplash photographer would never care for, because they took this picture maybe in their studio, maybe an own work, maybe they worked for Coca-Cola and afterwards they can show it. Maybe they use Unsplash just only as a portfolio in order to show their images and to be booked. So these images are free to see, and you can use them, of course, but you have to clear some other rights which are in the picture. Okay. I found one really horrible example. You see this picture, great, mother shoots her daughter, takes a picture of her daughter, and pushed it to Unsplash. And UK-based public office, they did this advertising saying, Fatima's next job could be in cyber. Don't do ballet anymore, just learn cyber. And she didn't know, she's 14. So you can guess what she thought while seeing this picture, and she's UK-based, so you can imagine what happens there. You know, the photographers, they don't know where to push the images. You have to have something like an helper, filtering the images really can use. And for example, Getty Images, iStock, Adobe Stock, they are some filters. Unsplash isn't. So the story behind Unsplash, behind these free databases is they established just only a database. They wanted to set up a database. And for example, the guys from Pexels and Pixabay, they sold their databases to Canva, which is an online product. You can design your Instagram shot or whatever. You can design it on there, and you have millions and millions of images in the background you can use for free. So the only guy who earns something at Pexels and Pixabay are the owners of Pexels and Pixabay. Unsplash has been sold to Getty Images early this year, which was quite an interesting thing. We heard that sound and we had a deeper look in why. Why did Getty Images buy Unsplash? Maybe one reason could be, okay, you have this big supplier of images and we want to just take them out of the market. That was one reason. But the other reason was the beef behind Unsplash is Unsplash has established about 18,000 API connections to 18,000 different companies, softwares, guys who produce, helping you establishing a brand, building your PowerPoint presentations, and you have a direct link to Unsplash, and you can use their images. So, okay, maybe in a PowerPoint presentation you show in a small room, and it is not streamed online or maybe available afterwards. Maybe these pictures can be used, but if you publish these images and you really publish them, you have to have a deeper look into each image. And that's one point. You have to have a deeper look into each single image. That's a problem. So, once we talk about how to source content right, do you remember this kind of imagery? Yeah, Fotolia. Fotolia was democratization of the picture market. Let's say it like this. Everybody could upload, everybody could do whatever they want. If they are creative or not, they didn't care. And just to give you a glimpse, these are the top sellers of Fotolia within the last years. I bet you might remember some images. I guess. Maybe from the outside, maybe. This little boy with the green bar behind, that was, in multiple advertisings and posters and outside, etc. And that is really funny, yeah. But if you want to have a close look at the picture market, you find everything. And that's my visualization of the picture market. You really can get everything. You have the big players like Getty Images, who was constantly coming from the past, who was grabbing all the big agencies, also the news agencies like Bongards, which is the European greatest sports agency, and all that stuff. You have Shutterstock and Adobe Stock rising from zero, rising from amateur photography. And but aside, you have also this agency of Mr. Chimek, which is called Okapia, just doing some advertising for them now. You have so many different angles how pictures are produced. You have the paparazzi, you have the artists, you have the press, you have the documentaries, you have the scientists. So once you want to find out which kind of content you need, do you really need a group of people to be on your Meet the Team website? And just if you have a stock image on your Meet the Team website, just do a right click and search by Google where also these people are in the team, right? What do you really need? You have specialists, you have generalists, you have press, you have so many different angles how to view on this market with different license models. So there were some classical models where you use a license just only by usage. You have one usage and you pay for that usage. That's the past, that's Stone Age, because nowadays you have 360 degrees communications, you need 20, you visualize so many things with one image, you want to have it as a key visual for the life insurance and you want to roll it out to everybody. So you need some general licenses. Maybe you need some general licenses, maybe you need some mid-range licenses for the small images on the website, for some images within your content marketing, just only aligning the first step, and maybe you need some small licenses, just only one-time usages, one social media post, one PowerPoint presentation, or whatever. So once we are finding out which kind of license does a customer need, maybe this perspective for you is interesting. What should the database reflect? Is this image just only for one person to use and the other ones can relicense? Is this image for a specific group of users? And with users, I mean the folks in the communications teams, the folks in the products team, the folks in the press team. And who can handle that? Who has to handle that? And do these images be stored in the database at all? Of course, you have to watch out for the size. If you go to Unsplash, you might find some 1 megabyte images which you cannot print or whatever. That is for sure. And the next thing is rights. As I said, the Coca-Cola or the whatever you find on the picture, the persons on the picture, and you know, talking about these additional rights. We talked about the German GDPR. Yeah, we have to talk about that as well. Once we talk with our customers, it's all about how do you release, how do you have a release, a consent of the people being visible on a picture. And how can we handle that? Do we have to store them in the database? Do we have a signed release to be stored in the database, and with all the images in behind, you can see, okay, this person is on this image and with this agreement. So GDPR, if you have stored all this, you can take down the images quite easily, automated. And on the other hand, just to give you a glimpse on the GDPR, it's only this data security thing is just only for the data processing, not for the publishing. For the publishing, you have to clear the normal rights for the personality. And at the end, you know, once we talk about what kind of content do you need, what license really do you need, what do you want to do with the image, the actual size, the rights, and after that we talk about the appeal. Is the image great for you or not? And so, to be honest, I'm not here in order to give you just a list of agencies you can go to, whatever. We can handle that with the Q&A afterwards. But what I have to say is, before having the right picture, and this is the picture I want to do, this is the picture I want to publish, you have to take care about some aspects in before. Once you're done, we have the problem of documentation, and we talk about automation. We talk about a lot of data structure information. We talk about all the information you have with the PIM. And with images, you have different other aspects of metadata you have to work on once you do it for the marketing, for the surrounding, and for the picture editing. I show you this because within Google, you now see who is the copyright owner, who did this work, and where can you license it. This is all seen in the Google search now, and images have, once you add specific information, they are flagged within the Google image search to be licensable. This is the licensable badge, which is added to the images within the Google search once you add information. And you can do it via IPTC, or you can do it via HTML meta tags or whatever. I don't go into details on that. But if you give out these information, you can say, okay, this image comes from here. Your PIM says, no, we need these fields, these data structure in order to show that this is a product. And that is something, long story, but I will make it short. Google worked on this badge to be, this image shows a product. And so your PIM delivers images to the CMS, delivers information to the CMS. Okay, this image belongs to a product. So at this point, this information do not appear, but it says it is a shoe, it costs 70 euro, and you can buy it here, we have it on stock, and etc., etc., etc. All these information you can also give out via metadata, and it's a product, it's not an image. And so we told Google, okay, but for the photographer, the picture is the product, not the shoe shown on the picture. So they got that, and they learned, and they installed these fields. What we learned while having a look at the metadata structure on the websites of our clients is, okay, you take care of all the metadata, you deliver them to the CMS, and the CMS in the final instant deletes all the image metadata, because metadata are superfluid, are extracting the data, and we want to have the images short and small, and so they reduce everything, and they delimit the whole metadata structure. So at that point, we now come into the digital age again. And we should talk just a second about upload filters. Upload filters mean, I don't know if you heard about the new European Copyright Directive, which is established in August this year. I hate to talk about that, but there's one aspect we have to deliver, and it has something to do with storing the information of the license and just also giving that information out. While you upload any content to social media, and that's the story behind that upload filter, you deliver to YouTube, you deliver your films to YouTube containing some copyright protected music, other films, maybe you use an iStock film or a Pond5 film, not to do some advertising, but some name dropping, or you deliver wherever from ArtGrid or so, and you deliver them to YouTube. So once you do it privately, you can do it. And nothing will happen if it's just a small snippet, if it's satire, etc. Because this new law says if this content, copyright protected content, is uploaded to your platform, you have to pay for license. And not you as a private person, but YouTube. So YouTube pays to the collective societies, which are GEMA in Germany or VG Bildkunst, and in other countries, the other collecting societies. They pay something like a budget, and that's it. And so everybody's happy. But commercial companies like us, we don't have that. We have to deliver the license. We have to deliver the license because this is something, I have it in German, sorry for everybody. I have it in German. That's when I delivered my last movie to YouTube. They check. While uploading, they check, they verify, is there some copyright protected material? And my movie was just done by ourselves. But if you have copyright protected content, it will be blocked and you will ask, please upload a license document, a PDF of the license. So if you don't have a license, coming back to Unsplash, do a screenshot of the Unsplash website so you know this image comes from Unsplash and you can have a PDF of the Unsplash license agreement as well. So this is also an agreement. You have a photographer's agreement. You have your whatever license you bought content with us or with Getty or wherever. You have something you can show. And at this stage, YouTube does it not automized. It is a manual process. You have to manually upload, but of course, now they search for a way how to automate that as well. We're talking about maybe license hashtags or some references. Maybe Getty Images now delivers a reference to the specific license you bought within the high-res image you download. So this is something which might come up in the future. And don't believe what is out there, because I found this, which is a movie. I wanted to show this movie here, but it's just only a bleeding heart, bling, bling, bling. And it, below it says no copyright. So no copyright, okay, I can do it, yeah, but you can pre-flag, you can post-flag, I will go, but just only for personal use. If you want to use this bleeding heart, you have to pay for, and they will find, because this short track is already on YouTube. So YouTube already knows this is a work by this specific author, Sepp Huron, screen design. And so once you use this thing and you upload a movie to YouTube, having this included, it will be blocked. So that's one of the stories. And there are so many stories about. I have these three names: pre-flag, post-flagging, and red button, which explains also the content ID and upload filter process. Pre-flagging means you can, while delivering your pictures to Facebook or wherever, or your movie to YouTube, you can say, I already licensed. You can put it into the metadata. But this still not exists. It has to be evolved. Post-flagging is what we now have. You upload the movie, it will be blocked, and that's it. And you have to deliver the document afterwards. And the content creators, they have something like a red button, show me all my content within other users, and I have the red button, I can say, okay, this one not. This is the 3 words you may come across in the future. So this is all about social media, which comes up in the new copyright directive. So within social media, you have, as it's also a product which is still evolving within the last years, you have so many thoughts on how to deliver images to Facebook or wherever. Some say we have to tag the photographer and create something like a watermark saying photo by this and this, because the photographer has to be named. And they said explicitly, expressively, you'd have to name the photographer once you upload images to YouTube. This is just a change in game. You know, it's a learn curve you have to go through. And I don't know what happens now in the next month, but once your customers deliver images to social media, which is next to print and web, classical web, which is a rising journey, they might come across with several questions. And I'm talking now for, I guess, half an hour, so I think I came up with some thoughts. Maybe you have some additional thoughts. So I hope you enjoyed this last half an hour, and so let's play.
All right, wunderbar. Thank you very much. That was a very colorful presentation. I think you guys know what's coming next, right? Anyone have any questions in the back? Right over here, this gentleman. Can we get a microphone to him in the blue?
Thank you for the interesting talk. I would like to ask about something where you ended with social media. You mentioned that Bildbeschaffer is also doing sourcing and research through social media, I guess user-generated content. I would like to know what are the specific challenges and processes that you see when sourcing from Instagram and so on.
Mm-hmm. Once you don't have user-generated content, where you focus on the guys who add yourself, who hashtag your brand or whatever, the point is, 10 years ago, you only worked with experienced photographers, professional licensees. Now you work with friends, with amateurs, with guys, which is a challenge. You don't know how to approach them. At the end, some, they don't want any license, they don't care about. Some don't respond, that as well. So give it a try, and maybe you have 50% respondents. Maybe they would give it to you, and maybe they want to have money, but that's comparably less. It's a matter of time to ask them, and again and again.
Great question. All right. How about another question? What came across your mind as you were listening to Alexander speak? I mean, I thought a little bit about my high school days where Napster was around. Yeah, I don't know. Probably a lot of you know about Napster, where you could get music for free, and that was like the biggest rage. I don't know. What do you feel about piracy nowadays? There are so many different formats of content now, from not only photos, but you have the movies, you have apps. I mean, everything can be pirated at some point. Is there one type of content that's particularly vulnerable?
Yeah, it's maybe a matter of content, but on the other hand, you have the folks working on the creative stuff. They do social media privately. They do Napster privately, and that was something like a pitfall. And everybody thought, okay, I can download that stuff, so I can use it. And for private, maybe a private copy is always allowed. You know, we recorded cassettes for our girlfriends or whatever, and that is a private copy. But now they step into the guys step into the company, and they thought, okay, I can do it here because I can do it privately. And that's a big hurdle. You have to explain, and you have to tell them, okay, maybe technically speaking, you can do that, but please don't do it here. Like, for example, the Forrest Gump. We were talking about Forrest Gump today. And you remember the Bernie Sanders sitting with gloves within the inauguration of Joe Biden. And he was sitting in gloves. And there were millions of guys taking this Bernie Sanders with gloves. And 3 hours after that image was exposed to the web, some guy just took it out and had the PNG with the background without background, so you can copy it anywhere. And everybody did it. It was fine. It was great. It was great stuff. But don't do it as a company. These things. And on the other hand, which is vulnerable in order to be copied. Let me talk about the NASA. The NASA is, as an American part of the government, they have to publish all the images they produce. They have to publish them public domain. So they are for free. If you get the corona image Michael showed in the first this morning, this image is from the CDC, US government. You can take it, you can use it. Even the Tagesschau did it, and they can do it. So. But the NASA also shows images they bought. So some guy goes over the NASA server, takes every image, which is just copyright protected, and says, oh, it's public domain because it's from the NASA. Sometimes it's not that easy.
Okay, so it's important to have clarity. And I know for us here, we're also in our private roles day to day, and there is this term fair use policy, which I believe encompasses a little bit about how we can use the content privately. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah. Fair use is something like an US American constellation of thoughts, where you can use the image if you do it in an appropriate way, if you do it for promoting the guy who originally focused this image. It's something like a fair use, and you may not have to ask, but it's an American law. It's a nice idea, but it doesn't work in Germany. German lawyers would laugh.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a difference. I mean, here in Europe, we have all these different nations with their different copyright laws and requirements, and there's no European standard. I mean, you're in that industry. Do you see a development towards a European copyright?
It was what we saw now is just only the portion of how to use copyright in the digital market, and this is just only one specific aspect they renewed. It is not a matter of wholly just European standards, but if you say something like 70 years after the author is dead, you can his work is public domain. This is Europe, and maybe only Kentucky has 100. Okay, so, but on the other hand, always have in mind copyright issues are just 3 steps after the very important things. And so maybe copyright is not something in every country in the world will be evolved. And Germany is very restricted on that, and we have many lawyers, but your customers also have lawyers.
All right, and one final question from me. But before I ask, is there a question from the chat? Yeah, Birgit.
Yes, we just got one question, and it's how can you ensure that the licenses or rights to the images that have been posted in Content Hub over the years are always up to date and that they are usable for different use cases? If this deviates from the original purpose, is the solution here via the metadata?
Okay, the German law would say, and the Austrian law as well, the Swiss law is more open. The German law is more to say, once you give out the contract, you have to say, what do you want to do with this image? And if you say print and web, that's fine. And if you did that 15 years ago, you didn't know anything about social media. So the old images you bought 15 years ago, nowadays, you cannot use them in social media because you didn't clear the right those years ago. So what you have to do is, technically speaking, do a checkbox, something like a matrix, where you can say, okay, this license allows me to do this, 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 and this. And if you add an additional field to this list, you have to clear that right. And if you say it is time, without any timely limitation or aerial limitation, you can use them by any time and any area you want to. Some agencies, and for example, Unsplash, sometimes you might check if this image is still available or not. Two reasons. One reason, maybe Unsplash might not exist anymore, and photographers might sue you because Unsplash? I don't remember. And if these images were stored in Adobe, you might check, because if this photographer has been put out, maybe because he does infringement, a series of infringement processes against customers, you don't want to. So the agency takes out that photographer. There are a lot of law companies doing some law cases, stupid things, unnecessary, but they take them out, and if the images are out, so you should check if you take an alternative.
All right, we have another question in the back.
Yes, from the other side, how
Yeah.
can I protect my content?
There are several ways. In America, in the US, you have something like a copyright registry, which is a public company where you can register your stuff. And so it's copyright protected in the US. Minimum fee 5,000 if you find some. So that's okay. There's no such European thing. But nowadays, you don't have to really do an entry into any database. In the physical, in the Stone Age, you took a copy and brought it to your lawyer, and he put it into his safe and his vault, and there it was stored, so you can always say, this is my original artwork. You have your camera, you have your raw data, you can check a duplicate, and you can see, okay, this is really my image. If you do a photo journey with 20 other photographers and you shoot a cliff in Cardiff, and the next guy shoots the same image, it might appear that his image can be your image. We had that as well. Photographers complaining, oh, this is my image, why haven't I been paid? But one seagull had his wing just lower, so we could see it was a different photographer, although the perspective was almost the same. Save your raws, save your data. And once you want to find, take them into Google, do a reverse search, and you will find where your images have been used, if you already have published them.
And that's a great tip too, yeah, that really works. You can.
We have a lot of tips like that.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you very much from Bildbeschaffer, Alexander Karst.
Yeah, thank you.